There's the whole conundrum in The Good Place about like trying to find an organic tomato and like trying to like not take negative life points by like hurting people in the process of buying an organic tomato, and it's like an impossible task.
Well, you know what won't help you buy an organic tomato, and it's definitely not an impossible task, is listening to this here episode of the Halcyon Frequency Podcast, airing March 21st, 2022. This is episode 10. I'm Blind. I'm your host. That was an interesting intro. And I'm joined with FGsquared. How are you doing today?
Yeah, hi. I'm good. I'm actually good.
Yay.
I've moved, so it has actually happened. We didn't know until about 2 weeks ago if we would move a week ago or not. But it all worked out. And like a lot of the stuff that could have gone wrong went wrong, but we have moved. The house is good. The internet is stable and fast, so yeah, I can't complain. I had a nap this afternoon because I ended early because we had house stuff to do. So yeah, not bad.
And we're also joined by Jess. How are you doing this morning, afternoon? I think it's afternoon. Feels like afternoon at daylight savings.
You know, I'd say 50-50. I actually have a pretty bad headache right now. But, you know, it's fine. I'm watching some really trippy music videos right now in the background.
Is that maybe
strange
where your headache is coming from?
I think it depends on the music video.
Okay.
I mean, there's definitely some bands that I know of that have put out some pretty trippy music videos that would give you a headache, just with flashy lights and colors and stuff.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It depends on the music video, I suppose. This isn't research for the question sections later, is it?
Not exactly. It kind of led me here, but
Okay.
Now I'm curious as to what your answer is going to be.
Oh, well, teaser for the end, I suppose.
Yeah. So stick around.
Like, it's been a weird week for me as well, kind of. Like I'm doing weirdly well considering, like, as I feel like mentally I'll have like high points and low points, and I was definitely at a low point at the beginning of this week, and then like on Wednesday afternoon out at the park when I was going on a walk, I kind of just like changed my whole streaming schedule, and now I'm like weirdly positive. We'll see how long that lasts, but like for right now I'm like actually pretty good, which is nice.
Yay, pretty good is good.
Also, the fact that I get 3 days off in a row after this. And I get to see a band next week, which I'm also excited about. So,
Ooh, that's good, yeah. Outside. Yeah. And people
because,
things.
Like, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a ton of tickets pre-bought for shows throughout the year, and they all got refunded, and most of them go through a service called AMG, which is like an extension of Ticketmaster out in Canada. Mm-hmm. And I have like $200 in credit that I can just spend on shows. So it's just like, oh, $28 show. Yeah, I'll go. And it's even better is because I have it in credit. I don't need to pay their processing fees because the money's already in their system. So I'm actually like getting discounts,
nice.
Which is kind of interesting. But
yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah. I mean, I would prefer they just gave me a cash refund, but I guess I'll do it this way.
Hey, I mean, it's money that's already out of your budget anyways, so, you know, might as well now use it, right, if you can't get it back.
Absolutely. It's like,
nice.
Well, a show at 8 p.m., yeah, I could just get on the train at 7 and make it there, no problem.
Awesome.
I get to go see Deaf Haven, if anybody's wondering out there, but
don't
also
know who
got
that
to
is.
See... Well, nobody knows who Deaf Haven is. That's fine.
Okay.
Unless you already know who Deaf Haven is. Although on the topic of things that people do know who they are, I saw Dragon Force last week. That's kind of a video gamey topic that I could talk about briefly.
I know who they are.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
They had like massive, like, okay. First off, it's kind of a streamer topic too, because Herman Lee, the guitarist,
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, the guitarist of Dragon Force and founder of the band and author of most of their songs is a active Twitch streamer. And so he's streaming the entire tour, quite literally, like with multiple camera angles, and he's got like cameras on his shoulders and one on his guitar. He's got like many cameras like up above the audience in places. And so while he's playing, he's got a guy off stage who's like running a stream deck and a laptop controlling the
Nice.
stream, which is kind of neat.
pretty
And there was
cool,
like a
yeah.
point where I was like next to the pit, like kind of standing away from the densest part of the crowd, popped into my phone, was like, hi from the crowd, and the chat's just like spamming. It was a good time. It's kind of neat.
That's cool. Yeah.
They pulled in a guest player from a local band called Unleash the Archers and played an homage to everybody's favorite game of all time, Farming Simulator, which included like half of the band leaving and coming out in overalls and cowboy hats, which
Nice.
is and a banjo. So like if you've ever heard Dragon Force's music, it's like ridiculously fast and silly. Imagine that with like a banjo at the lead. It's kind of amazing.
I would listen to that actually. Yeah. That sounds good.
They did a. It was a good set. They have a vocalist who joined the band relatively recently. It was like a couple of years ago since I last saw them. And he did a great job with their old stuff. Like their old stuff has some pretty impressive vocal work, and their old vocalist never did it justice. And their new guy is really, really good. So yeah, it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. They have a song about Skyrim called "The Last Dragonborn." So.
Well, don't they have lots of songs about lots of different games?
Not actually that many. There's like some loose references to games in some of their music, but the majority of their stuff is like just unique. But they write a lot of like pretty generic, like hoorah, like fantasy. We're gonna ride with this like magical battalion through space kind of music. But like, I don't think they have anything that is just straight up about a video game. Because like this song straight up references names and places and characters and spells. They don't actually say Skyrim at any point in the song, but the song's called "The Last Dragonborn," right? And they
Yeah.
talk about shouting at dragons. Like, it's just about Skyrim.
Yeah. Yeah. We all shout at
Skyrim
dragons all the
gameplay on the
time.
screen. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I don't
normal.
know. It was a fun show. It was good to see them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just being able to go out and do stuff is cool. Talking about going out and doing stuff, I'm going to IKEA on Monday. Oh boy,
Exciting.
that is a thing. Yeah, we bought a wardrobe online and got it delivered amongst like tons of other stuff. Turns out we got the one that's too tall because it comes
Oh,
in
no.
like two versions, so we have to take it back, get it refunded.
IKEA's pretty good about that stuff, though.
Yeah, they are. The only problem is you have to take it there. They don't come and collect it. So we have to rent a van, take it there, return it, buy the other one. Yeah. But it's okay. I
be
get to go to IKEA. I haven't been to IKEA in a bajillion years, is what it feels like. So, yay, IKEA.
Go get
It's
some
a
meatballs.
very stressful adventure.
Well, it's gonna be during the week, so it's hopefully not gonna be super busy, right? It's gonna be
What?
like Monday early afternoon, so hopefully it won't be too
As long
crowded.
as it's not summer.
Jess,
Still,
I've got
the
a
kids-
question.
All the kids are on vacation.
Well, it was
Why do you
March.
think that IKEA is stressful? Is it because they're designed to make you get lost? Is it because of crowds? Like what part of IKEA
Oh,
is stressful?
100% of crowds.
Really?
Yes, 100%. Most of the time when I go to IKEA, well, okay, so basically in the US, I'm sure this is actually most places, we have one IKEA for like a city, maybe two.
Oh.
And
Yeah,
so, like, everybody goes.
We have 4.
Yeah, but then you live in a city with like millions of people, right? So
I mean, I live in an area that is technically 4 cities, and I think in total it's like 6 million people or something.
that's why it's
But like
four.
Vancouver is like 300,000 people. North Van, which is technically its own city, is another 200,000. Burnaby is like 1 million. Surrey is like 3 million. Richmond is like 1 million. New West is like 200,000 or something. But like each one of those major city centers has their own IKEA. There's a small one in Vancouver. There's one in like kind of the faraway Burnaby area. And then there's one in Richmond, and there's another one out in Abbotsford. And so I think that maybe spreads people out because like whenever I've been to any of them, none of them have had huge crowds. Like they're not empty, but like they're not packed. But I guess I don't go on a Friday afternoon.
yeah, exactly. That's why we're
Usually
going
go
on
there,
a
like,
Monday.
Tuesday morning.
Yeah, if I have to go to IKEA, I definitely try to do it on a weekday in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
But otherwise, it's just crowds and people who like just walk so
slowly. Oh my god, yeah.
Like they just get in front of everyone and like walk 4 people wide and then just walk
Really?
at like half a mile per hour speeds, and I'm just like, get out of my way.
Yeah, or the worst are because they run around with a little blog and a little pencil, and then because they're they're writing things down, right, on a notepad, and then they stop in the middle of the aisle to talk about, do you want to get it in black or white, or what color do we want? And it's just like, go stand over there. There's space over there. Go stand there, and then go do it there. Don't block my way. Come on, just be aware of your fellow men.
Yeah, I want to say it's like usually the crowds at IKEA are like 70% people who are not aware of everyone else around them who's annoyed.
Yeah.
That's why it's so stressful.
Yeah. I don't think we'll go and get meatballs though, because it's still a bit, I don't know. Depends on how crowded it is, I suppose, and if we want lunch or not. We'll see.
The meatballs aren't good.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, we have to, as I said, we have to rent a van, so we have to return it by end of day. Otherwise,
Also,
it
if
costs
it's like an
more.
hourly rental, you definitely want to be out of there quick.
No, it's not hourly; it's daily. It's actually £69
Nice.
per day, but obviously we don't want to keep it till next day. You know, we just want
Yeah.
to have it return on Monday.
Yeah, you want to get that back as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last thing I bought from IKEA was a two-door delivery thing. So like a company brought it to me, which was actually kind of a weird experience because like it was just a shelving unit, right? It's like a Calax, I think is the name of it, which I bought for my records because it was cheap and it was just a way that I could store my records that wasn't a cardboard box on the ground. The guy that delivered it was super helpful. Like walked it from the truck on a dolly all the way into my apartment for me. Put the box in the apartment and everything. And then like, as he was leaving, gave me this real quick spiel where he's just like, about 10 minutes after I leave, you're going to get a text message from us. It's going to ask for a review. If you leave us a poor review, we might not get work tomorrow. I was like, oh, okay. So you're like guilting me into giving you a positive review, but they were great. Like they were on time, like on the dot and delivered it perfectly. And they're just like, yeah, it's like a review based pecking order of like which company gets booked out that day to do the deliveries.
Wow, that's rough.
On a daily basis, which I don't understand how that's legal, but
yeah, that sounds really rough. Gosh,
it's weird, bizarre.
Yeah, here they just contracted out to like logistics companies. Like it's just a standing contract, and they just delivered because we had our stuff also delivered, and they carried it upstairs and whatnot. So carrying it down the stairs is gonna suck. But
there was no review process or anything after that.
No. It's just they have just the standing contract, I think.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, my chair. I bought a new chair and I got that delivered today from a different logistics company, and they are going to get a review from me on Google because absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. We're in a new development, right? So we are not available everywhere to find on a map yet because stuff hasn't updated yet, but you can find us. Like, you know, like if you have access to like the post office stuff and whatnot, they can find us because like the post delivers here already. Like, you know, all the other companies find us. And then yesterday they were just like, couldn't find you. And they just showed up and they took a picture of where they couldn't find us of like just a dirt road with one of the houses in development on it, but no idea where that even was or whatever. Like, it's just, And then their website didn't work, and their website their chat on their website didn't work, and you can't leave them any delivery instructions either. Like they have a field, and they're like, leave us delivery instructions, but there's no text field to put in delivery instructions. Anyways.
Yeah, I guess the other question is what chair did you buy?
Oh, Secret Lab chair. Yeah, I bought one of those. I know racing chairs are not for everybody. Definitely not. But having tried different chairs and different configuration of chairs, I work best with racing chair configurations. It's just how my body works.
Yeah.
So that's what I went with. Yeah.
I think the main problem with racing chairs for me isn't the design of them themselves. Like I've used them and I think that they're nice. The problem is I think that there's a lot of companies that are really bad that make them. There's just a lot of really cheap racing chairs out there, so that kind of gives them a really bad rap. But Secret Lab's good.
Yeah,
they're one of the better ones. There's definitely like a couple companies that just kind of jumped on that and sold them for real cheap.
Yeah, definitely. Like the one I have now, I'm also happy with, but it's like 6 years old at this point, and I sit in it every single day for very long periods of time. Like it's like there is no more cushion left, basically. Like it's getting to that point, and it's being a bit wobbly. Like it's not like broken or anything like that, but my tushy is going to appreciate having a cushion beneath it again.
I was cleaning my chair the other day, and like there's parts of my chair that are like mouse levels of gross. Like I actually had to like disassemble part of it to like get weird bits of dandruff and hair gunk out of spots in my chair.
Yeah. Let's not talk about how dirty / clean it is. That's true. I had cats. Now I just have one cat that also slept on the chair. So yeah.
Cat litter.
Yeah,
just gonna end up
like
in
random
places.
bits just mashed into the chair.
Yeah,
it's just getting there.
That is like cleaning the keyboard. I don't really have that issue with a chair, but cleaning the keyboard is disgusting.
I mean, I had this discussion with my chat last night, but do you want to know how I clean my keyboard?
Sure.
I take all of the keys off, and I put the keys into an isopropyl alcohol soak, and let them soak for about 10 minutes. And then I take the keyboard base, and I put it in the dishwasher. And I dishwash it. Then I take it out of the dishwasher, and I leave it in the sink, like top down, for about 24 hours, and I don't use my computer. Or I plug in my extra keyboard, because I have a membrane keyboard that I just have. And then about 24 to 48 hours later, I put all the keys back on, and I plug it in, and it looks like new.
How do you put it through the dishwasher without completely ruining it?
No hot water and no dry cycle.
But it's got.
As long as you
dry it out before you plug it in, it's fine.
It's fine. It doesn't
What
show it
about
out.
the cord and everything?
Yeah, that's
my cord's disconnectable.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the one problem with my keyboard. I cannot detach my cord, so I can't do that.
Yeah, that was some like my last keyboard, my previous keyboard was a Razer keyboard, and it didn't have it was like I think a Razer Black Widow. I can't remember what generation name it was, but it was the one before they started making them backlit. It was like the last generation of pre-backlit ones, and it didn't have a disconnectable cable. And the reason that keyboard stopped working was the cable got faulty. So ever since then, I've I guess the keyboard I bought after that, which is a Cooler Master Keys, which is just a very basic like Cherry MX Brown switches blank keyboard with no light, with no backlighting or anything, just like 3 LEDs. It has a disconnectable cable and it's just USB Type-C. So I can just like unplug that and take all the keys off and just wash it. You probably could wash it with the cable on, but it might hurt your cable.
I think it would hurt my cable, so I'll just do it.
Maybe I'll try it when I get a new keyboard.
But try it with the old keyboard
just
first.
Science it.
If you have a backup keyboard, science it with the old one and see if the old one still works. Because like
that's what I'm saying. Like, because I plan on getting a new keyboard, so I could just record it, and then it could be like, I can make a whole YouTube video out of it. Can you dishwash a keyboard with a cable?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, like I have a friend who lives in a rather hot place in the U.S. And he'll do similar things, except he just puts it outside in like dry 100-degree weather, and it just dries it out. So like, except I think he just puts it in the sink and just like sprays it. It's like. At the end of the day, as long as there isn't like a touch screen or a screen on your keyboard, you're probably okay. You might lose LEDs though if it's super heavily backlit.
Yeah, mine is backlit. The way that I've been cleaning it is to take all the keys off, put them in the bag of isopropyl, and then I vacuum it because it just collects all the cat hair.
Yeah.
And then I take like Q-tips with isopropyl and just run it between everything, but it takes ages.
I used to
Yeah.
do
Like a very
basically
long
that
time.
same thing, except I would take it outside with a can of compressed air and spray and do that instead of vacuuming it. Because I don't really have a
That's
vacuum
probably
that
more
works well
effective.
with that. Yeah, my neighbors used to looked at me pretty funny a couple times in 2020 because like there was actually people outside behind my building during 2020 because people would go outside to socialize distanced wise, and so I'd be sitting there like I don't know like 5 meters left of the smoking area with the keyboard and a can of compressed air. You're like, what are you doing? It's like cleaning stuff out of this.
It's like when me and Solentre would clean our computers back at our other apartment. We don't have compressed air, but he's got like this blower thing that you plug in, and it's basically compressed air, but you plug it in and it generates the air. It's like complete reverse vacuum. And I would take that outside, and it's really loud. Open up the computers and just like turn it on, and just launch dust into the air, and my neighbors would look at me like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I do that with compressed air, but I go down to the underground parking lot to do that.
Oh, I would just go out on my balcony.
I would do it on my balcony, but I got so many plants on my balcony. I don't feel like cleaning dust out of my plant pots.
Yeah, that's fair.
Probably what would end up happening.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say though, like, not sponsored, but considering the atrocious amount of hair, cat hair that gets into my keyboard, I'm really happy with my Corsair keyboard because it works flawlessly despite the probably 3.5 cats that are currently in this keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, I also have to kind of shout out to the Cooler Master Keys. I mean, I bought this thing in 2016, and like, it's going strong. Like, it's been through my dishwasher more times than I can count, and it's like, I don't know. I'm proud of this keyboard. Keyboard like build quality is something that I don't think gets like talked about enough in the game space.
Yeah,
I guess
mine's
maybe
a
now.
Logitech, and I've had it since I think 17 or 18. The G810. And I have spilt numerous drinks on it, which did for a while make it behave really weirdly, but now it seems like it's over it, so that's good.
That is good.
That is good,
Functions
yeah.
as normal now.
Nice.
Well, this has been a lovely little ramble session, but you know, this is a video games podcast, so I think that we're all going to just take a real quick break here, and then we are going to come back and talk about some games. And after we talk about some games, I'm going to be inserting a little bit of an interview with the Odd Realm developer, so you have something to look forward to after we talk about our games. So without further ado, I'm going to take us to a real quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the games we've been playing this week.
Do you like indie games? Or what about strategy? Are you tired of screen shake and motion blur? Stop by my streams on Twitch to discover new games and experience wholesome community interaction in a simulation sickness-friendly environment. You can find me on twitch.tv/2dcurie. I'll see you there.
All right, everybody, we are back. This is once again the Halcyon Frequency Podcast featuring myself, BlindiRL, FGsquared, and
Hello.
Jess. And we're going to talk about the games that we've been playing this week. So, you know what? Let's start off just at the top here and work our way down. Jess, how's Crusading as Kings, the 3rd edition?
Oh, you know, still going. I'm having a really good time with it. Remembering why I stopped playing it the first time, which was because I can't stop playing it.
I don't see the problem here.
Yeah. Same.
Well, you know, I am trying to be a variety streamer, but
I mean,
all
most
I do
variety
is I wake up and
streamers-
I'm like, what was that?
Go on. I was just going to say most variety streamers just play Fortnite all day, but go on.
I wake up and I just think, today I'm going to do something different. And then I sit down and think, no, more Crusader Kings. Must continue crusading.
I
So
mean,
that's
like me
all I
thinking
played
should
this
do
week. I
something
have
different.
nothing new.
Do you have any fun stories of things that have happened in Crusader Kings? Kind of putting you on the spot here.
I have loads, but one thing that I've been trying to do now for multiple rulers is start a witch coven. And what keeps happening is I get very close to starting a witch coven because you have to have 60% of your house who are witches, and the faith that my dynasty is doesn't. So basically, everyone is a criminal because it's super frowned upon. So everyone is just witches in the dark, and so I have to find 60% or convert up to 60% of people in the house in order to start a coven and make it, acknowledge it, and basically no longer have it be a crime. But my rulers keep dying before I get there. So for like 4 rulers now I've been trying, and every time they die, you like, quote unquote forget who all the witches are. It's just been a nightmare. I feel like I should give up. But at this point, chat keeps encouraging me to try again. So,
Yeah,
this is either round 3 or 5, or sorry, 4 or 5.
Ideally, as somebody who has done that, I have actually created a witch coven. I did that with when the Viking stuff dropped. The not what is it called? Flavor pack. There we go. That's when I did that. Because there's an achievement to do it as a specific type of Viking. And what you want to do is you want to get somebody really good at like the whole intriguing and like talking to people thing, and then just go through it. Just have your ruler do nothing else but talk to people and convince them to be witches.
That's what I've been doing. But the problem is, at this point, is my dynasty is so large.
Yeah, that is also
they
a problem,
die
yeah.
before I get to 60%.
Yeah, you want to do it like really early on. Ideally.
Yeah, I got super close, and then my very first ruler was so close. I think it was in the 50s, and then he kicked the bucket, and then from then it's just been an uphill battle that I can't win. I'm trying to see if I already have this achievement.
Does it matter if you have the achievement, though? Like, games like that are just about telling a story, really.
Oh, yeah, I know. I don't know if I have the achievement or not, because I know I've tried making a coven before.
Okay. Yeah, to me, like, the entire reason to play games like Crusader Kings is very similar to, like, the entire reason why you play Dwarf Fortress. It's just, like, yeah, you could play things super optimally and, like, aim for specific goals, but it's just a lot more fun to just kind of see what happens.
Yes, I agree. And just to go for the story and do wacky things.
It's like, I like hunting for achievements, especially in like shorter story-based games that I really like, where I want to just find like more dialogue and writing and things. But like games like Civilization even as well, to a degree, it's like, the game becomes a checklist, and like that kind of takes away from it a lot for me.
Yes.
But when it's all just about like, oh, I maybe you're working loosely towards something, and it's more just about like the friends and kids we murdered along the way, like that's the actual fun bit, right?
Yep, no, I agree.
That's something that I just love about Crusader Kings, is it's just so entertaining, and I can just keep playing it and keep playing it and playing it.
I hope you get like 10% of that feeling out of Dwarf Fortress when it releases.
I probably will. I love the storytelling aspect. I started this run with the intention to complete an achievement, and I did, but I'm still playing it because at this point I'm like just so invested.
Of course, yeah.
In my dynasty, and now I'm trying to, I don't know, paint the map. I don't know what my ultimate goal is anymore. I already did it.
Well, thank you much for the Crusader Kings update, and I look forward to hearing more, which I'm sure we will at some point.
Yes, I'm sure.
FG, do you want to talk a little bit about Core Keeper?
Yeah, of course.
We'll just kind of bounce back and forth for the games that are left here. On this one.
Sounds good. So, Core Keeper is basically a TLDR version of it. I would just call it a mashup, top-down mashup of Terraria and Minecraft that you can play either single player or multiplayer. And that's the TLDR version of it. It's early access. It's not finished yet. It's only got 4 bosses plus 2, like 4 of the main bosses, 2 side bosses in it. So you can't currently like finish the game basically, but it's single player, multiplayer with up to 8 people. They have a roadmap. They're working on eventually having also dedicated servers and that sort of stuff. So it's gonna lend itself really to like, the whole base building, exploring, crafting type stuff, and it's really fun. I really enjoyed it.
I have a question. What is Core Keeper doing differently? Like, what makes Core Keeper Core Keeper? Because from my perspective, I've never been super interested in that style of game. Aside from it looking kind of like at a Stardew Valley kind of top-down angle, to me it just looks like another one of those.
According to FG, it's not Stardew, it's Terraria.
Well,
it
the
is not
camera
Stardew,
angle
yeah.
is Stardew. The camera angle is Stardew.
Well, it's
but the
top-down,
game
right?
itself
It's
is
top-down.
Terraria. I
Yeah.
acknowledge the gameplay progression is Terraria, but is it doing anything different than Terraria and the games that it's emulating?
At the moment, I would probably say no. Not really.
Okay.
But as somebody
So it's
who's
mostly derivative currently.
yeah, but I mean
Gotcha.
yeah, a little bit. But it has a little bit more, at least currently, like progress direction than Terraria does. So that helps.
As in, like, it's guiding the player more instead of
Guiding
you having to
the player a little bit more towards like
Okay.
the where to fight the bosses and that sort of stuff.
Gotcha.
Also, it's got skills and like skill progression and that sort of stuff. So there's like, I don't know how many skills. I don't remember. Maybe 12 skills, like fishing, mining, fighting, gardening, farming, that sort of stuff. Up to 100, and you unlock also like unlocking skills, like raising your skill level gives you like unlocks, like, you know, if you keep running and you have skill you're running, then at some point you do more damage when you've just come out of a run and that sort of stuff. So there is a lot of good basis for it to become like its own game in the space. And so far, because I was in the closed alpha for that, and they've basically listened to every single bit of feedback that the community has given them. And what is there is already really dang solid. The gameplay feels nice and tight. Like, all the weapons feel nice and tight and that sort of stuff, which is very important.
Awesome.
And they listen to feedback. I mean, and yes, it's early access, but it's an early access game that you can easily play already for 12, 20, 30 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the status quo, I think, for games like this now. But like whenever a game kind of comes out that's very much emulating something else, I'm always curious to know if it's more of a derivative kind of example of the genre, or if it's an evolution on the genre. And that to me is kind of the difference between a game that'll come out and be interesting for a little bit and a game that'll come out and just kind of disappear. Like another kind of two examples of this is like Timberborn and Going Medieval are two games that I kind of look at that are like kind of evolutions, but also going, or at least Timberborn very much is kind of going in its own direction, whereas Going Medieval currently, well, I guess they're going medieval, but they're kind of a bit more derivative, but it's 3D instead of we're trying to make a different kind of game progression-wise and gameplay-wise. So to me, like that is, it's just an interesting question to get to see if like,
To be fair,
Core Keeper stands out in that matter.
Yeah, I did forget to mention a thing, actually, which is something that you can unlock later. There's automation in the game. There's drills, conveyor belts, like inserters and that sort of stuff. Like, it's very basic at the moment, but there is automation, and you can build a rail network, like a minecart rail work, and you can drive minecarts and that sort of stuff, which is pretty neat too.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Alright.
so there's you know, it's very early. It's Alpha 3 right now. Right.
Looks a lot more than an alpha, but
Yeah, well,
Sure.
like it's version 0.3, right? So that is
Gotcha,
Alpha,
yeah.
but yeah, you know, like going by like RimWorld standards and whatnot. So there's a really, really, really solid basis here for this to become really, really good, especially if there's mod support later on, which I don't know has been confirmed yet or not. I'm not sure, but there is a roadmap out there that people can look at, and I'm excited. Like, it's been really fun.
Awesome. It's also like quite cheap too, so it's
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's why I said, like, you can already play it for 20, 30 hours, and
Yeah.
that already puts you at like sub $1 per hour, like, easily.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is always a good ratio, I think, for games that are in early access.
All right. Well, do you want me to ramble a little bit about Grand Mountain Adventure? So Grand Mountain Adventure is, or rather, what is the full? The full title is Grand Mountain Adventure: Wonderlands. Because Grand Mountain Adventure, the original, is a tablet game / phone game, and it's a top-down. It's not like fixed camera or anything. The camera kind of like passively moves. But it's a pretty stable camera. But the camera moves depending on where you are on the mountain. It is a skiing and snowboarding game. I have a soft spot for this type of game ever since the SSX games and Ski Free and all that stuff way back when. I played Alto's Adventure on phones when that was a big deal, which was another kind of flat like 2D skiing game or snowboarding game. But this is, it's pretty casual. Quite literally. It's multiple different maps throughout Europe, and they're all fictional ski resorts in different countries, and there's flags from that country all over the ski resort. And it's just you take ski lifts to the top. There is an option to just play an open cross-platform multiplayer where there's other people skiing around, but you don't have to do that. And you can race people if you want in multiplayer, but I haven't really messed with any of that stuff too much. But as far as a single-player game, it's a collectathon. You go up the ski hill, you look at your map, you see where there are pickups and upgrades that you can pick up on the way down the mountain, or you can see where there are different routes that you can take, and it sets off a timer. There are trick areas. Like, it's a very simple kind of, it's one of those. But it's got this really nice kind of lo-fi feel to it all. The music is pretty low-key. I turned it off quite quickly and put on just some Aphex Twin and the kind of stuff that I normally listen to. And just I listen to chill tunes or a podcast and I ski down hills, and it's not particularly difficult. It's just super zen and relaxing, and it just reminds me of Ski Free and the older SSX games, and I don't know, it's just been pleasant. I really like mountains. I really like snow and that kind of winter setting, and it's just a very pleasant game. That's it. Nothing incredibly standout-ish about Grand Mountain Adventure: Wonderlands, but I mean, it's just very pleasant.
Hey, pleasant is good. Sometimes you just need something that you can just kind of do, and your brain kind of shuts off, and you're just having a, wonderfully chill time. That's all you need.
Which is kind of bad because another snowboarding game called Shredders just popped up, which has
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah,
which looks more like, because this is like a third person behind the back kind of thing. Also has really good reviews. It's currently 96% positive, and I'm like, maybe I'll pick up another snowboarding game.
Do it.
I can't decide if the camera would make me sick or not, but I did see this reviewed a couple days ago, and I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, it's got online co-op if you want to play together. I don't know. I would never stream games like this. It's not the kind of thing that I stream, but I have so much nostalgia for extreme sports games. Like growing up, I played games.
Beautiful too.
Yeah, at my cousin's house growing up, I played a lot of ATV versus MX. I played a lot of like car racing games and off-roading racing games, the old dirt games, a lot of SSX games and Tony Hawk and all that stuff. So this stuff is just ingrained in with games in my head, and I love this kind of stuff. So I might bite the bullet and try Shredders as well.
I'm looking at Grand Mountain Adventures right now. It is not simulation sickness friendly. Definitely not. That camera is quite rough. But just as a warning for people, because I would probably not be able to play it.
They do have 3 different camera options. There's close, medium, and far. The close camera has the most rotating. The far one does almost none. But the far one I can't play because it makes your character so small that I can't quite see him. Because it literally turns him into a little meeple. But the game is so casual. You can slam straight into a tree and your guy just kind of keeps going. It is very much Grand Mountain Adventure is very much a casual game.
Yeah, for me it's usually when the camera moves independently of whether or not I control it. That's the problem. And unfortunately,
you have no camera control in this game. It is on a fixed route through the mountain depending on where you are.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll have to bypass that. Shredders looks fun though.
It's a smooth camera, so I like it personally.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, it's just I totally realize that smooth cam in games looks nice. It just makes me sick. That's all. It's just how
See,
it is.
I have the opposite problem where like a super harsh cam makes me sick and a smooth cam doesn't. Like
Fascinating.
I actually, because the next game I have on here is Jupiter Hell. Jupiter Hell has an option to remove the smooth cam options and lock it to the character. That makes me feel ill.
Fascinating.
So, like, because I tried it because way back when Kiri streamed it, she had the camera locked to the character, and that made me feel like someone was grabbing me by the back of the head and shoving me through an area instead of just like naturally following a thing. Bodies are weird.
Yeah.
I really haven't figured out like what it is. Some games make me ill, and I don't know why. Like I haven't nailed down a specific type of camera that causes it.
To be fair, I can deal with that kind of camera. I won't feel like super duper great, but I can deal with it. I can adapt. It just takes a while. It's just, if it's involuntary movement for me personally, plus motion blur. Motion blur is the thing that my eyes just, and my body just goes like, this is weird. Something's wrong. Time to get the poison out of my body. Time to puke.
Yeah, I mean, I also can't quite pin it down. I think that camera and camera direction in games is an art form that we are still perfecting. Mm-hmm. I think we're getting there slowly, but I think part of the reason that right now there's, I mean, this could be a whole episode on itself. I mean, we should do this episode at some point. I think that one of the current problems is because there's so many people that are more amateur game developers making games right now and making games successfully because of the accessibility of engines and asset packs. You don't need to be a programmer anymore to make a game.
Yep.
Right? I think that there's a lot of default settings being used that maybe are designed to be tweaked that I see getting used, especially in more independent games and smaller games that do cause some pretty major motion sickness. Mm-hmm. Like I've gotten motion sickness from some games with smooth cam. It's pretty rare, but it's happened, especially if it's more extreme. But the majority of games that have it, it's not a problem. But every now and again, there will be like 1 in 50 that it's like, oof, like I can't deal with this.
That game for me is Eco. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but Eco's camera
I
is
can't
the
even
worst
watch
I've ever
streams
felt.
of Eco.
I really can't figure it
Same.
out, but I have gotten like so physically nauseous playing that game, and I've tried multiple times, and like I don't know
Same.
what it is.
Same.
Another example that I have of a game that makes me ridiculously nauseous for no reason is a Deep Rock Galactic. I can play about 20 minutes of that game before I want to throw up.
Yeah, G for me is fine, but Eco, I just can't. I just can't. I can't play it. I don't know. And same with you, Jess. I have no idea what it is. But it just makes me so ill.
I tried turning off head bobbing and like zooming out my camera and doing all these things, and it was like nothing helped.
What's the field of view in Eco? Does it have a field of view slider?
I'm not sure.
I want to say yes, but I don't remember.
Because for me, field of view is a big thing. If a game is like less than 90 field of view, I can't play it. I just can't. Like it's not even an option. I just can't play it.
Yeah, low
If it's below
FOV is
90.
definitely not great either. That's true. I want to say you can adjust it though.
I think you can. I seem to recall adjusting that setting. Maybe it's like how close your tools are to your camera or something. It's just
Maybe, yeah.
I can watch it. I can't play it.
Well, talking about games that probably don't cause motion sickness, FG, do you want to tell us a little bit about Spirit of the Island?
Yeah, you say that.
That probably don't cause motion sickness.
Yeah, for some people. So Spirit of the Island is also an early access game that came out this week on the 16th. It is a life sim that you can play single player or co-op, which is cool. And this already has co-op. And it is sort of basically it's the perspective of Animal Crossing. It's very much like it. Like the interior of the houses look very like the art style looks a little bit Animal Crossing, the latest Animal Crossing. The camera is very much like it, except it doesn't have the curved earth that Animal Crossing has. You know, it's like a flat. It's like a flat. You know, because you mentioned that, Blind. You can't look at that because how the Earth is like
Yeah, because the
curved.
world rotating. Yeah.
Yeah. That it doesn't have that. It's flat, but it still looks like the characters and the art and like the general perspective, the top-down view looks very Animal Crossing. And
Great. I'm definitely pro flat worlds here.
yeah, not flat Earth, just flat world.
I said flat
Exactly.
worlds.
Yeah.
Flat world's fine. Flat Earth bad. Wait.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Silly.
And basically the idea is you're grown up and your parents are like, go be on this island and do your thing. Turns out though, apparently you were actually found as a baby on the beach on that island. So that's there. You have a sort of mysterious backstory, and you're on an island, and everybody is like really sad and poor because there's no more tourists. So you kind of, your job is kind of to like rebuild the town, and you can like hire staff, and you can have like shops, and there's farming and mining and combat and that sort of stuff. It is early as well. I think it's version 0.17 right now, so it's pretty early. It does a lot of things right, and I think if for people that like live sims, especially co-op, people will enjoy it. It does, however, have smooth cam with a pretty big delay. Like you literally like let go of your button and your character will walk for like a solid half second before it even stops. And then your character, the camera for the character will still keep going for a little bit. So it is a bit iffy. I got used to it, like in terms of like motion sickness, but combat, because of that camera and how it moves, feels iffy. Like combat needs work, but it's early access. So
This kind of feels
Yeah.
like the thing that I mentioned earlier, where it just feels like a smaller game developer, and it's going to take more time. They probably have a smaller amount of QA, I would guess, on a project of this size.
yeah, I think so too. It's just something that needs like input from players. It's just right now, because you need to like judge the distance from like how close you are to an enemy, because you need to hit them and you need to avoid their attack. But because you let go of the button, but it doesn't stop walking, it's really hard to judge that, so it feels just a little bit off. It feels a little bit better, the walking, when you play with a controller, but then you have controller managing moving items from like one chest to another, which is also really annoying. So yeah, it just needs a bit of tweaking. It's quite fun though. I think people, as I said, like that have that enjoy live sims like this. I know Sui played it. She played it co-op as well, and I think it worked quite well. Like when she played it in co-op, it's quite fun. Like I enjoyed it, obviously, but not finished yet. So it's a keep an eye on game.
Excellent. Neat.
It looks nice, but I'm not sure if it's a game for me. I can't decide.
Well, I mean,
It's one of those things like I kind of want to try it, but I also like don't want to try it because I don't want to put the time into it to not like it.
I mean, you played Stardew Valley, right, and enjoyed it.
That's true.
Though you did say you never finished it, but this one has co-op, so you could rope in Cilantro, theoretically.
Theoretically.
So my last one on here for games is very similar to the game I talked about last week, just because it's more of a patch commentary than an actual new game. Jupiter Hell is the game that I want to talk about, and I have like close to 400 hours in this game now. They put out a really big update earlier in the week, and so I just kind of wanted to talk about that. Once again, this is a traditional roguelike, top-down science fiction, kind of in the theme of Doom. It is the spiritual successor to a Doom fan game called Doom the Roguelike, and it is it just got basically its biggest patch since launch. What the patch that it released does is it reworks the first whole zone, the first major zone, and all of the alternate branches from the first major zone. So you know how a lot of roguelikes will have like a very distinct area and then another distinct area and then another distinct area kind of deal? This just remakes the whole beginning area. From small details like when you walk into a zone that you haven't, or a room that you haven't seen before, there's things like blood on the ground, like little details like that make it look more like there was a fight that happened. Things are broken. There's like weird lights flashing. Visual effects have been reworked. A lot of like the way the doors look different. Things are more visually decipherable and easier to see in a lot of cases. A lot of small tweaks like that. Combine that with like the previous patch where they added a lot of accessibility features, including like outlines on characters and Also, the game has full mouse support now, which was a previous update, which you have to dig into an options menu to find it, but it's there. So the game's just kind of gotten a big accessibility overhaul in the previous patch, and combine that with this current patch, which fully remakes the early game. Now, the problem I think that Jupiter Hell had when it hit 1.0, the biggest problem, is that the first zone was the most boring zone, and all of the alternate branches were the least interesting. And the game kind of got good around the halfway mark. The problem is the game is bloody hard. So reading reviews for the game at 1.0, it really felt like most people didn't see the cool stuff. Unless you were experienced with this style of game already and you were able to make it to the end. Like, if you know what you're doing and you read carefully in Jupiter Hell, you can beat the game your first run. But it's not easy to do, and you kind of need to know what you're getting into in order to be able to do that. This kind of just makes the experience of learning in the early game a lot easier and less daunting. So even if you're dying a lot in the early game, you have puzzles in the alternate routes, which can give you big boosts by the end. You have a lot more like just storytelling stuff in the environments. The environments are more varied and have more interesting lighting depending on which route you take. The drops are better in the early game now. There are more interesting uniques you can get in the early game now. The different routes have unique perks that are specific to that zone. So if you go in one of the areas that have a lot more robotic enemies, you'll get drops that give you guns that do extra damage to robotic enemies. And just little tweaks like that change the rest of your run going forward. Just as an example, one of the alternate routes in the early zone has an area called Rift, which if you succeed in the puzzle on the way through, there is a way that you can get permanent poison immunity for the rest of the run, without having to have like a perk or an item on a piece of armor that gives you poison immunity. So like these are some pretty major buffs for the rest of the game that really kind of changed the feel of the whole run. And instead of like, all right, I got to get through this first zone Callisto as fast as possible so that I can get to the good stuff, now it's, okay, how am I going to think about how I'm going to do the early game because it's going to affect my mid and late game? And I very much feels like the game is probably at the best place that it's been since launch. And the next major patch is going to rework the mid game and do the same treatment to the mid game, and then they're going to do the same to the final areas. And I think that game's on a really good post-launch trajectory right now, and I look forward to where it's going to be in a year, but it's the best it's ever been, so very happy with that game right now.
One day I'll try it.
There is also a major secret that's been put into the game, which I'm not going to spoil here at all. There is a section of their Discord called Jupiter Hell Secrets, and it's been a week, and they still haven't figured it out. They figured out how to find the beginning of it, but they haven't figured out what it does or how to get to the end of it yet. So there's some really neat secret stuff in that game now that I'm waiting to be fully discovered so I can go see it, and then I'm going to do a deep dive on this podcast into that stuff once it's out. Or once the secrets are out there and I can just follow a guide because I'm lazy. I'll just let the community do that for me.
Sounds good.
But, yeah. So I think that's everything for games that we have to talk about right now. So we're going to take us to a real quick break. But before we come back from that break, you're going to hear a little bit from the Odd Realm developer, which I'm going to record after this. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Odd Realm update / expansion that just dropped for Odd Realm called the Sacred Scrolls expansion, which he's been working on for like a year and a half. So that's going to be a bit that you're going to hear. And then when we come back after that, we're going to talk about some news. And then, of course, your user-submitted questions at the end. So stick with us, stay tuned, and we will be back in a little bit. So we are back from that short break, and I am now joined by a lovely guest host who I'm going to ask to introduce himself in a moment, but I'm joined by the developer of a little indie game called Odd Realm. It's a game that you've heard about us talk in the past in this podcast, and now he's here to join me. So if you could introduce yourself, that'd be fantastic, and tell us a little bit about Odd Realm.
My name is Waylon, and I've been working on Odd Realm since, I guess, 2017.
So could you tell us a little bit about the kind of game that Odd Realm is and the way that you kind of interact with the world as the player?
Yeah, I always describe it as top-down Minecraft. but instead of controlling one person, you're controlling, I don't know, upwards of 50 or 70. And so you start the game off with a handful of specialized humans, or if you choose one of the other races is called the Ancients. They're like skeleton people. Your first objective is really just to survive, you know, and you are presented with a procedurally generated world to choose a starting location to settle, and you can choose from deserts and tropical islands. I don't know, you're kind of like northwestern taiga, pine tree, forested area, tundra. There's tons to choose from. And once you get going, every biome that that you choose from will have different challenges and pros and cons. And so, it's one of those games where there's no. It's hard for me to say like, oh, this is what's going to happen, because the intention is you never really know, and I certainly haven't gotten there yet, but I want it so that players, when they go into a game, it's always going to be different. And Odd Realm is heavily inspired by, as you know, Dwarf Fortress, and that is a game that has, every time you play, you're going to have a different story coming out of it, and that's where I want to get to with Odd Realm, but with its own world, stories to tell, and style.
So you've been working on Odd Realm for quite some time now, and that kind of makes games like this appear to be a little bit daunting, especially like kind of the open-ended nature of that. So do you have any things that you do to kind of try and ease the player into, the Z levels, the management of many individual little characters, and the mechanics in the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is very difficult to ease players into this type of game. It's sort of like throwing somebody into a pool that doesn't know how to swim and just like, all right, figure it out, because there's so much to teach. And as a one-person team, it's not so easy to gradually introduce things, because let's say I introduced everything one mechanic at a time. That's a ton of work just to do that. And for me, I'd rather add more content, more races to play, more things to discover, than always worry about how I'm easing players in. And that's sort of something that I sacrifice, because in terms of like player acquisition and being like a really successful game, because I think the majority of people prefer having more content over it was a bit difficult to learn. And I think it's just the nature of this game, where it's gonna require patience. And the only thing that I do to help players is I have a tutorial that like does try and introduce things in a way that makes sense. So when your settlers first start to get hungry, there is like a little prompt that says, okay, well, they're going to die after a while. You might want to try X, Y, and Z. Maybe go collect some naturally growing plants and get going that way. But yeah, it is extremely difficult to make something that has, it's a living, breathing little world, and there's diets, and people can have uniforms set up, and there's, I think there's 30 to 40 different attributes per character and all these different item types. So it's just brutally tough to make it something easy to learn. And the other thing is, without rambling too much, the Z level mechanic is very unique. There's like, what do we got? We got Dwarf Fortress and Nomoria are like, and Odd Realm are the ones that I can think of where it's like strictly top down, no changing.
From that particular perspective, definitely. Also, the way you do Z levels is a little bit different than Dwarf Fortress 2 because like channeling and digging are kind of one thing where they're split into two separate options in a lot of games.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you dig into a level, it takes off the floor above it, unlike Dwarf Fortress. But that's like really falling down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I don't know if like, you know, I don't know if you can remember when you first played a first-person shooter game, but for me, it wasn't like, you know, I didn't pick up the controller and instantly know what I was doing. I think there are certain mechanics that we're just so used to as gamers and players. We just, you know, you pick up a controller and you know how to use a first-person shooter just because you've been doing it for 20 to 30 years or whatever. And with this type of game, it's so new. Like, none of it is known inherently. And that's a huge barrier for people. And I kind of mess it up sometimes as well, where I'm like building and I built something in there. I'm like, oh, okay. And there's so many little things that I do subtly to help with that. But even with those things, it can be really confusing. And I'm just at a point where I don't really have the answer for teaching those things. I just try and take the feedback where it's like, okay, this was kind of confusing. And then I'll darken the layer below a bit just to help highlight things. And I don't know what to tell you with that one because it's just so difficult for players to kind of grok.
Well, I think a combination of the tutorial and like the actual like you said, like all the extra tools that you give the player to kind of control and play the game, I think is an added benefit. I think that as far as learning curves go, it's definitely got the most comprehensive tutorial outside of the other games that you mentioned. I mean, Dwarf Fortress, which doesn't have a tutorial, and then No Moria, which has never really had much of a tutorial, and also poorly developed wikis, unfortunately. So like I think that you kind of ride the line a little bit. But something else I kind of wanted to I guess ask is like, what do you think stands out about Odd Realm compared to just other town builders in general? Is it the Z levels? Is it the fact that it's more directly an inspiration to Dwarf Fortress, unlike something like a RimWorld? What do you think that Odd Realm is doing that is kind of a unique feature?
Yeah, that's also kind of a difficult question because I don't really go and actually take notes on all these different games out there and like see what they're doing. And that sounds terrible, but I just don't really care. I don't know. I kind of make the game for me, and if people want to play it, that's cool. I started the game from the inspiration of Dwarf Fortress, where I was playing Dwarf Fortress and I just wanted to see the people. I wanted it to be more tangible for my imagination to start going with. And Dwarf Fortress is absolutely incredible. I have nothing to say bad about it. Fantastic game. And for me personally, there was a little bit something missing, like where I wanted to see these little people actually moving around, you know, engaging with things and have a little bit more life to it. And I never really intended to make something so heavily influenced by Dwarf Fortress. It's kind of gotten to the point in development where it's like Odd Realm is like a child of Dwarf Fortress. And I had initially just intended to make something that was like a Dwarf Fortress light. I thought it would be like a little ant farm simulator thing. And just as I started developing, there were more requests for features that just sort of started to align with things that Dwarf Fortress already had. And so, if anything, Odd Realm just has a whole hell of a lot of charm. And I think it's, my intention as a developer is that I want players to get in there and just feel like really engaged with, I don't know if there's an English word for it, but it's that feeling you get when you watch an ant farm, or I don't know if you ever saw that Simpsons episode where Lisa creates like a little mini world and it kind of evolves super fast at like 10x speed. There's like a certain human intrigue with that I'm trying to focus in on, and Dwarf Fortress is certainly like the forefather of that feeling.
Do you have any like features that you've added to the game recently that you're particularly excited or proud of?
I think you saw this already, but I just added all the items actually showing up on your little characters,
Yes.
which it is something that has been requested for a long time, and I never really thought I'd be able to do it. But I just sat down and I was like, okay, I want. It is very difficult because they're so small. It's very difficult to understand who's doing what, and adding the visuals of the, if you're wearing iron armor, you'll see green plated helmets and stuff, and that's a huge addition, surprisingly, that I'm really stoked on. And the one thing that gets me really excited about that is I was testing out putting like a crown on one of the humans, and one of my features I have planned is like leadership roles where you can determine you can say, oh, I want my settlement to have a king, or I want my settlement to have a president, or some form of leadership. And seeing the little sprite with this crown on their head and them walking around the village, and they looked completely distinct from everybody else, really got me hyped for like the potential down the road. So certainly that for me.
It's an adorable little feature, and I saw the GIF on Twitter earlier today, which is what I think you were referring to. But I kind of pulled my team for a couple of questions that interested them, and one of my teammates, Kiri, was actually streaming the game the other day, and she kind of has this question, which is, do you have any like future plans or rough idea when the game might hit a 1.0 state?
Yeah, I've never announced a date because I've suffered in the past from like promising things, and then it just makes things like either confusing or I don't meet those deadlines. But so take this with a grain of salt. But my internal deadline is the release anniversary, which is January 10th. And so next January, I want to have 1.0 done. Yeah. And that's not 1.0 isn't like the game is done. It's just, I want the three additional races finished, so there'll be 5 in total. And there's a bunch of overworld map stuff that I'm going to add. And those are the 4 main hit list points that I want to have done for 1.0. And I think I can get those done this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to guest on this podcast. And if to anybody listening out there, if you would like to hear a longer version of us talking, there's a video on my YouTube channel from getting close to a year ago now, where we talk quite extensively about the game, and also an interview which is going to be going up in the coming days, where we talk about the Sacred Scrolls expansion that just released. So if you could tell us where people could go check the game out, then we can move on from there.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me on the podcast. That's really cool. And you can find the game on Steam, on itch.io, and on GOG, and hopefully other places later on, but not yet. And it's $10. If you can buy a coffee, you can probably buy Odd Realm.
It's the price of 2 cups of coffee, and you also have a Patreon if people want to chuck extra dollars at you. Of course, there will be links underneath in the podcast description if you want to go find it. And we are back. Welcome back to the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. Due to the magic of editing, we had a little bit there with the Odd Realm developer. I hope you enjoyed that. And now we're going to talk about some news. And I think Jess is going to take the first one here.
Yeah, sure. It's been a little bit of a light week for news, but there was a state of gameplay reveal for Hogwarts Legacy that I think was just released yesterday.
I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, looks right. What are your thoughts on this?
It's like
So
yeah.
I think all of us have we all have like some history with Harry Potter, right? We grew up in the last 20 years, I think, the last 30 years, give or take. And so I've read all the books, I've seen all the movies. I think that J.K. Rowling needs to be shot into the sun, but this game isn't made by her. But then there's also the fact where there's the game. So, I don't know. FG, do you have anything to say, like just kind of off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's probably how do I succinctly put this? It is probably a game that I really wish I could play without my conscience yelling at me. But because my conscience is yelling at me, I will not, because Rowling yes, she is not directly involved with the game, but she still gets money for it. And that's just... in no good conscience can I support that and promote that. Like,
So it's not even just a won't stream it, but won't play it, won't buy it kind of thing for you?
yeah, I think so. As much as cool as it looks, and as cool as it would be to like run around the world and explore, it's like it would just feel tainted, and I would just constantly think about it, and definitely don't want to promote it on my stream, because I have members of my community who are trans, and that would feel like a freaking insult to them. Like I would feel like I would be insulting them by promoting something that is, I know, not directly connected, but it is connected enough that she's going to make lots and lots of money from it, and I don't want to support that.
So first things first is I wanted to see if I could figure out what her cut from royalties were. So I did a little Google search, and I typed in "is J.K. Rowling," and the first thing that popped up in Google search results is dead, still alive, died of COVID. The first three that popped up.
Oh my God.
So that, I guess, shadows public perception, but I don't have an exact number here, but yes, she will be receiving royalties. I think the important thing that I want to say first here is this game looks really pretty. It looks really nice. Gameplay looks quite smooth. For an unfinished game, like there's definitely some hitching in the gameplay itself. As a game in that universe, it looks like a good one of those. It kind of reminds me of when I was initially seeing gameplay of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, going, oh, that looks like a good Star Wars-y thing. And this looks like a good Hogwarts-y thing. Now, I just want to echo everything that FG just said, kind of about community and the person who created Harry Potter. But I just want to throw out a bit of a devil's advocate argument here for a second. Developers get jobs if games sell, right? And yes, a lot of the devs who are making this game are on salary. They're not going to get huge extra bonuses if the game sells super well. But these are people who also don't agree with J.K. Rowling working on this game. And J.K. Rowling is a horrible person. That's fair to say. But a lot of horrible people worked at Blizzard Entertainment and still work at Blizzard Entertainment. And there's a lot of people streaming World of Warcraft, and there's a lot of people streaming Diablo. There's a lot of people streaming StarCraft. There's a lot of people streaming Overwatch. And while I condemn a lot of things that J.K. Rowling has said in the past, and yes, she is getting royalties from this, she doesn't have any say over what is happening in this game. She's just receiving royalties. Now, this brings up another topic on like the subject matter that this game itself is tackling, which maybe we can talk about in a second. But when it comes to whether or not you should support a game, just remember that it's up to you to pick your battles. And I don't know if this is the best hill to die on necessarily. I agree. It's just like this is like, if anything, if you're gonna stream this, stream it and also fundraise for Trevor Project. Like do something good with it and embarrass the creators. Like
that's exactly that is literally the only way that I could see myself. I was actually going to say that, like, as an interjection. Literally the only way I could see myself actually playing this game on stream would be while doing a big fat fundraiser for charities that support trans people. Exactly. Yeah. And so I haven't 100% decided, but like 95% of my heart just says I just won't be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely agree with that. Like, it's there. If I were to play this game, which it doesn't really look like the sort of thing I would play anyway, so I kind of have like the easy argument here. But if I were to play this game, there would definitely be like that background feeling of, ew, gross, which is the same feeling I would get if I read the books again, or if I watched one of those movies again. Maybe not so much with like the first two movies, because those are just like nostalgia fests for me at this point. But like, it's
And don't get me
it's
wrong.
a weird thing. It's difficult.
I feel I also feel that conflict that you mentioned. I feel really bad for the people that actually worked on this game, and they put their heart blood into this, and they deserve also recognition for what they've done. But definitely, because it's a cool thing to like actually make a video game. It's a cool thing to get something finally with modern technology in this universe, but even with all of that, this is as I said, it's a personal thing. I would just have that noise, that voice in the back of my brain just going like, ew, no, ew.
There is one other thing that's worth mentioning is, to my knowledge, this game has been in development longer than this scandal.
Yes. So
Yes.
that's actually what I was going to interject and say is like, this game is everything that I wanted out of the Hogwarts world, like my entire life. I grew up with Harry Potter. It's a really, really important story to me and like my development as a kid. And so like,
Same.
sure, there's plenty of different opinions going around, like death of the author, vice versa, but like it's sort of my memories and my feelings with the story are disconnected from J.K. Rowling, and I can kind of hold on to that. And when Hogwarts Legacy was first leaked, I was trying to find the date it was leaked, but it was a long time ago.
It was like at a mall, wasn't it? It was like a walk-in QA thing where you signed an NDA. It was a weird thing.
It was like 2016 or 2017, right? It was leaked, and I was so excited.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
I was so excited, like, yes, I cannot wait. And now I'm sitting here like, I see both sides of the argument, and I don't have an answer.
It looks like 2018 was when that leak happened. Open world Harry Potter game leaked. Yeah, it was a public QA thing where you could just sign an NDA and play a video game, but it was very obviously a Harry Potter game. It's kind of hard to hide that a Harry Potter game's a Harry Potter game.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I guess that was not as long ago as I thought, but
that's still kind of a long time. That's like 4 years.
4 years
Kind of a long time
ago. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, this game's definitely been in development. If I had to guess, probably like 6 years, at least. So this game's been in development for a while. Honestly, and this is just me. I pick my battles, right? And I think that's up to the individual at this point. Like, pick your battles, and if it makes you feel bad, or if you think that take is going to impact your experience with a thing, just don't play it. Wait until it's on sale and super cheap, and give them less royalties. Or buy it in a humble bundle or something. Like, just like, you don't have to play things at launch and give them the most amount of money as well.
I should also mention, I won't think badly of people that do decide to play it. Right? It's their choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to me, this is a very similar thing to like, should you stream World of Warcraft? Well, a lot of bad people worked on World of Warcraft that did a lot of bad things. But a lot of good people are still working there trying to get a paycheck. So
Yeah.
I think this goes back to the buying an organic tomato thing.
always buy the organic tomato. Grow your own. Damn it.
I feel like if you've seen The Good Place, you might get the reference, but otherwise it's like, what?
But do we want to talk about the story of this game a little bit, or should we just kind of like?
Yeah, we can mention it at least, because it's so it's It has actually. That's why it's called Hogwarts Legacy and not like Harry Potter, Hogwarts Years or something like that, because it has, incidentally, nothing to do with Harry Potter, the character, or the Wizarding Walls or anything like that, because it is set at the end of the 19th century, in the 1800s, and you're a student that joins Hogwarts late. I think you're in your 5th year, so you attend classes, but you also have like catch up, like study sessions, basically just mini games.
Night school.
Yeah, it's like yeah, but you say that to totally digress. You say that, but Bully was really good. And that was
I would
too.
play another bully. I would play another bully.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, so you go there,
We're
so you
never
have
gonna
your normal
get another bully.
classes, but you also have like these one-on-one coaching sessions where you do like mini games and you can excel at things and get better and that sort of stuff. And then I don't quite know how you go from that to now there is a goblin rebellion, but then basically the major plot is that there's a goblin rebellion and you have to fight against the goblins.
Which on its so something that I tell my chat all the time is one of the things that I do as part of my work is I overthink things for a living. And I think that so I can ramble for hours and hours and hours about the way Dwarf Fortress generates racism and the way that different character archetypes act depending on where they were raised culturally and how they act naturally. And whether or not we should all hate elves because elves are cannibals, but that's their religious culture and they only do it after battle. And humans did that in our history. So should we hate humans should we hate everybody from New Zealand because they had cannibals that lived there previously? No. And so to me, it kind of comes down to how do you handle this subject matter? Because I think it's a pretty commonly known fact that fantasy worlds like Tolkien worlds, D&D as an example, these archetypes were created as human equivalents for what we perceive as acceptable racism to have human stories in a fantasy world. These archetypes are often attributed directly to a particular culture in human society, but dressed up so that it's not immediately recognizable, and it feels fantastical. But when you read into the writing, these characters often end up being written as particular social or racial archetypes. In Harry Potter specifically, the goblins are bankers, and they're very visually similar to the early D&D goblins, which are very much a anti-Semitic archetype. And I think for me, this isn't something that I can immediately look at in a game like this and judge it because I haven't played it. I don't know how, all we have is this 15-minute video that kind of frames this plot line, but I don't know how it's handled in the game itself. It could be terrible and horribly racist and be an unpleasant gameplay experience because of that, but maybe they go a bit more Dragon Age with it and it's actually quite interesting. So I think it falls down to the quality of the writing at that point.
Yeah, it does. Because the problem is obviously not just historically speaking, those stereotypes have existed in fantasy worlds and writing. It's also there is the precedent in Harry Potter itself with the house elves, and hey, we're like slaves, which are basically slaves, but it's okay because they like it. Which is a whole nother, giant, just problematic red flag.
Absolutely, but, because of that, am I defending J.K. Rowling's writing? Because of that, we also got, Dobby's storyline, right?
Yeah, of course.
Which is... there are things in wizard culture. God, that's a sentence I never thought I'd say this morning. There are things in wizard culture that are socially completely unacceptable in our world, but it's a fantasy world which allows you to have situations like that are crappy, that we recognize as, man, that is bad, and then you have a writing opportunity to have interesting storylines with that. And Dobby is a kind of something that people still talk about because it is a really good example of interesting writing using problematic themes. Is it handled perfectly? No, absolutely not. I don't think J.K. Rowling's writing is
It's not very good, no.
It's not very good. Like there is a lot of problems with that. But it was when I was reading that book, I was a little kid. And for me, that was like, we mentioned earlier in this discussion that like I think Harry Potter impacted a lot of us in our lives. And for me, that was like one of my first times really encountering writing like that, talking about racism in kind of a veiled way, and then realizing that later, or in this case, slavery, realizing that later, and then seeing how it was handled, like that's interesting writing. That is taking a crappy stereotype and doing something kind of neat with it. And I think that this game has the capability and the potential to do that.
True,
Maybe.
yes. Yeah. It's just so far the precedences from the Harry Potter world are not there. Because remember, House Slytherin is basically a house because this is the house for racists. Like
This is the house for white supremacists.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
Gryffindor is the house for centrists. And then Hufflepuff is like,
The rest.
I don't know, everybody else.
Yeah.
Wait,
so
but what about Ravenclaw?
that's where the
You forgot
nerds
about
are.
Ravenclaw.
they live in the library, so they never.
Yeah,
I did
that's where the
actually
nerds
forget
are.
about Ravenclaw.
I mean, the thing is, and I agree with you here. It can potentially be a very sensitive topic matter, but I think there is a chance for the game to shine because the writing is not Rowling, because it's different writers, right?
Sorry, I
Actually-
felt like I was almost interrupting you, but one little anecdote I just want to just drop in here is because they're under the shadow of J.K. Rowling, I want to see them overcompensate. But Jess, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I started thinking about this while you two were talking, and as a quick aside to what I was going to say, I actually really appreciate being here in the recording with you both because I think you both are very well spoken and quite eloquent with explaining your points of view, and it's just interesting to sit here, and I know this is just a vocal recording, but I'm like, nodding in the
same.
background. just listening. So while I was just listening to you both talk about this, I actually started thinking about if this is Hogwarts in the 1800s, what are they? I guess I should back up even further. If J.K. Rowling is not really contributing to the development of this game, what are they using to create this atmosphere and this environment? What sources are they using? Are they using the books? Are they using some of the supplementary texts? Or are they just creating new aspects?
Well,
just themselves.
You have to remember how licensing works, right? Warner Brothers owns the rights to make Harry Potter content, just like Disney owns the rights to make Star Wars content. So if you want to make a Star Wars video game, like I don't know what the exact process for this game was, but I can briefly kind of talk about licensing. If you want to make a Star Wars game, you go to Disney and you say, I want to make a Star Wars game. And then you give them a bunch of money, and they give you the asset Bible, or the creative Bible, which is basically, here are all of the Star Wars sound effects. Here are all of the assets that you're allowed to use from movies and exact details on how to model them. Here, or stuff that they've already made in some cases. Here is all of the music and the rights to use the music from Star Wars. And here is all of the history and world building and everything that is currently canon. Go. And that's usually how licensing works. And I'm assuming this is a similar situation.
So
I just feel like it must be kind of difficult, though, because, I mean, I guess there's movies to go off of, but in the books, she doesn't really describe things very well. Like, she writes the story around the characters, but I have noticed in rereading in recent years that she just doesn't really build up the environment outside of the little bubble of the character. And so I do kind of wonder, like, how they are supplementing that.
At this point, I think the movies have fixed that problem to a
Yeah.
degree. Like, looking at this gameplay, because I've just kind of got it running in the background with no sound on while we're talking. Looking at this gameplay, it looks like the movies. Like, there's definitely some environments that are, like,
Yeah, they're
a little
copy
more
pasted from.
fantastical. But it does feel a lot like they've just marathoned all of the movies and the extended universe stuff, and we're just like, all right, that's our art direction. Go.
Yeah, I think so too. If you look through it, like there's definitely some stuff. Like I mean, like they have some cameos from people that can have cameos, like the ghosts, because some of the ghosts have just been at Hogwarts since Hogwarts became Hogwarts, right?
Yeah, I saw Nearly Headless Nick. He looks just like in the movies. Well,
Exactly.
sort of,
Yeah,
but-
yeah. Exactly. So they've taken some stuff directly from there. And then I think they just kind of went with the same
Yeah.
direction. I mean, it does look like, it does feel like everything, like just kind of, like when you look at it, it does feel like it is part of the extended universe.
Hogwarts has kind of a known quantity visually as well, and it's with everything that the movie has, I don't think it is that much of a stretch to just probably assume that Warner Brothers just kind of has this is all the color palettes, these are deleted scenes or sketches and imagery and
True.
storyboards that we use for these movies that didn't make it into the movies. Like, they probably have tons of reference material, so
Yeah, true.
that would
Because
be
you'll have
my assumption of
that's
what
true,
they're
yeah.
probably
all
going.
the set designs and whatnot as well. Yeah.
So at the very least, they probably have like an architecture guidebook on like what things can look like. And like, let's think about the aesthetic of Harry Potter for a second here. It's late century castles, light steampunk, and magic, and like rusty old vehicles that shouldn't work properly. And aside from that, it's British / kind of Irish countryside with fantastical buildings sticking out of the side of cliff faces. Like, that's kind of the aesthetic of Harry Potter to a degree. Like, there's never really a point in Harry Potter where like suddenly they're in Africa, right? Like they're I guess like there's like the Goblet of Fire sequences where you have people from other areas coming, but like generally it's pretty like late medieval fantasy steampunky Europe.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
this was a much longer bit than I was expecting.
we clearly had a lot to talk about and to say about it.
Apparently.
So yeah, there's that. Nice.
All right.
We can briefly talk about something that is not really gaming related.
Sure.
I think. This basically the headline is that a streaming service called Altair, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's not Altair and not Altair. Maybe, I don't know actually. It never really got off the ground and it's now been shut down. This is a streaming service, if you've not heard of it. Popped up after a lot of the crap went down on Twitch in the summer of 2020, where it was revealed a lot of people are very bad people. So this is a particular streamer that then gathered a group of people and they said, okay, we're going to make a site that's going to be better. We're going to take better care of our creators. We're going to fund this side. And, they had a lot of really, really good ideas, I'd say, but not a lot of financial, like, it was all crowdfunded and invested, like crowd invested, I believe. And they wrote a little breakdown in their blog and whatnot, but then they weren't even live yet. But they had already running costs of $50,000 per month. And that is website, software, service, everything, salaries for the people. And
At a glance, they were raising money on WeFunder, which
Yeah.
I've heard of before, but never heard of anybody actually using it. And they've raised like $116,000, which is not
a lot.
sustainable
No,
from
not if
146
you-
investors.
if you have $50,000 expenses per month. It's really not. And they said they could go on for another 3 to 6 months, but they because the site is not really live yet. Yes, there is a couple of streams running. There were a couple of streams running on there, but nothing like major or big or anybody. Nobody had moved over there as a streaming platform. Like they basically realized running costs are only going to go up, while income for them is just going to stay down. So they've shut down. I think this like sort of popped up at the same time because that was also when Mixer happened. Plus, right, Mixer shutdown was then as well, right? That was 2 years ago already, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. It was a little more than 2 years ago, right? It was like
What is time?
before the pandemic,
June.
right?
No, that was in June. That was in June 2020.
2020?
Yeah.
Okay, so beginning
Yeah.
of pandemic then.
Yeah. So and this service popped up two months later. So
There's also Trovolo or whatever the one that starts with a T.
there
that
are
also
others
popped up around that same time.
Yeah, and there's another one that also hasn't really gotten kicked off, where people were like rumored to say that this is like what Dr. Disrespect is like doing now. Like they're just going to make his own platforms, which I don't think ever actually went anywhere.
Dr.
Like that
Disrespect
platform.
is actually making an NFT first-person shooter thing.
Yeah.
So good luck to him, I guess.
Yeah. So they ran for about 1.5 years, but never actually got kicked off the ground. I think they had a lot of good ideas, but maybe not quite enough business expertise to realize how
it's kind of funny because I was reading a little bit about this service because I completely missed this one. I'm familiar with a couple other smaller streaming services that have launched or are trying to launch in the death of Mixer, and I also kind of follow a couple others that have been around for a while. And the problem that I see is a lot of these services launch and they all say, oh, we're going to take better care of the creators. We're going to pay better. We're going to do this. We're going to pay you to stream. They always have like money as the forefront. The problem is none of them have the audience. And I think what they don't realize is that when streamers move to a new platform, unless your name is Ninja, and even in Ninja's case, a large portion of the audience ain't going to come with you. As an example, Ninja had 150,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch at his heyday. When he moved to Mixer, he had 10,000.
Yep.
That is like more than a 90% drop. So for an example, for me being like a 60 concurrent streamer, if I move from Twitch to X platform, I'm going to go from 60 to 5 by that logic.
Same.
And so it's not worth it for a lot of people to move to a new service, and paying better just means that you're going to make less money. And we all know that Twitch didn't make money for a really long time, and they had massive investment, right? They're profitable now, but it was a really long period of time of them not being profitable. And I think that a lot of these services just kind of underestimate the costs going in.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. I mean, most people still underestimate the running cost of Twitch. And then it's not even like they also underestimate brand loyalty of the viewers. Like people, when you ask people where they watch streams, so they just say Twitch, maybe YouTube
And
nowadays.
Twitch.
But
and Twitch.
It's still mostly Twitch. Like, funny story, literally had the house guy here today to do a courtesy visit where we were like, this needs repairing. He went in, he came into our living room where we have a computer set up, which means me with my 4 monitors, Lex has 2, I have 2 computers, he has 1. It's like this entire, like, what you would call a battle station. And he just goes, looks at it and is like, you a game streamer or something? And I'm like, yeah, I stream on Twitch, right? Like, that's the one website that people have heard of. And that like enticing people to move to a new platform is so hard. It's so hard. People love routine in that regard. Like, they just don't go somewhere else. And new stuff is spoopy.
We're also at a point right now where Twitch is so huge that I don't think anybody outside of one of the big corporations could actually pull off launching a new service. Like, I think, like, if Apple turned around and was like, we're going to launch a game streaming service where you can stream video games on the internet, that maybe could take off. Maybe. If they focused it on, like, apps and stuff that's on Apple Arcade. Like, there is a world where I think another big corporation could launch and do all right. But, man, I don't know. It's, monopolies aren't good. But I don't like YouTube. And I kind of like Twitch more than YouTube still. So
I feel I know what you mean.
Like I especially like with the status of the world right now, and this is kind of a sideways tangent, but I've had some people asking me if I could mirror my YouTube channel onto one of the various blockchain-based video networks that are mimicking YouTube. Like, they mimic YouTube right down to the layout, right? Like, they are YouTube clones. I'm not going to mention any of them, but like I looked at 3 different ones the other night because I had somebody in one of my audiences say, hey, like, there's a very real chance YouTube's going to get blocked in Russia. What are the odds you could mimic or mirror your channel? Because some of these services, like, straight up, you upload the video to YouTube and they will automatically copy it over to their channel on your channel and monetize it for you. Like, they will do that. And I looked at like 3 of them, and every single one of them was like, there's no reporting function. And the reason they have an audience is because they just let people who've been banned from YouTube on there. And it's like, great. So you go to these sites and the first thing you see is just like alt-right, like, crap. And it's like, I don't want to be next to this. So the only platforms that are trying to compete with a lot of these services survive because their audience are people that have been banned from the popular platforms. And that's not something I want to be next to, even if it's an alternate revenue source. And I like the only live streaming service that isn't Twitch, that isn't YouTube, that has been around for a while that I know of that is successful is DLive. The reason DLive's successful is it pays out in cryptocurrency and they don't have a report function. You can't report people and nothing is against the rules. The last time I went there, literally on the front page of their site, the highest viewed channel on their site that had like 1,000 people watching was some guy from southern US rapping about how he doesn't like certain people. Very racist rapping. Like, literally freestyle rapping about why he doesn't like black people. It's like, a lot of these platforms are successful because they take the rest. And I think when you're trying to make a more progressive platform, like what they were trying to do with Altair, as cool as it looks, Twitch is getting better in that regard. Twitch is slowly doing a better job of like handling trolling and those issues, and they are improving. It's baby steps, but they are improving.
Yep.
And I think that people are more likely to just wait out that getting better than they are to jump onto a different platform.
Yes, 100%.
Well, according to their statement, them being Altair, they have a back-end build that they're quite proud of. So, maybe somewhere along the line, somebody with a bit of monetary backing would be able to pick it up and build the vision, but maybe that's just me being optimistic. Because I do think that Twitch would really benefit from having some competition, honestly.
No,
Absolutely.
competition is great. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean
I miss Mixer for that reason. Mixer was good in that regard.
Mixer was the reason we got low latency. Mixer was the reason we got bits and a lot of other things. Whether or not you like bits,
bits,
it's
no.
a different thing.
Bits,
but,
no.
Like,
But low latency, yes.
It's still the reason that we got bits. Whether or not bits are good, that's a whole nother discussion. But it's still, I think, the reason we got bits. Because Mixer did it first.
I think we got bits before Mixer launched.
No, we didn't.
Am I crazy?
Yeah, no, bits came. Oh god, when did Twitch bits come? Africa had basically they had balloons, maybe. Yeah, Mixer launched January 2016 as Beam, and bits came in June 2016.
Okay, so yeah, it wasn't Mixer yet. It was Beam at the time, but
yeah, but
I think I'm pretty
platform.
sure bits were in the works longer than that, but I could be mistaken there. But I know that like channel points, picture-in-picture ads, raids, a lot of the features that we use every day on Twitch now were Mixer features.
Yep.
Multiple channels in the same screen, the multi-stream stuff, that's also a Mixer feature, and Twitch implemented it poorly. But like,
oh yeah.
a lot of those features that we use all the time are mixer features, but
Yep.
I guess
Well,
TLDR
maybe-
competition is good and we miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this could be a whole other episode.
It could. Yeah. It could
Well,
indeed.
I got something here that hopefully won't be a whole nother episode. First off, I just want to say shout outs to anybody who bought the itch.io bundle for Ukraine, because I'm just popping it up here. They raised $6.37 million with their bajillion tiny little games, which was a lovely bundle. However, if you are still feeling generous and you want to throw money at a good cause, Humble Bundle, I guess the heavyweights in this industry, have done the same thing, which conveniently launched right as the itch bundle ended. Now, this bundle is more expensive, but it does include 123 items, but I think the average right now is $51 Canadian. Jess, could you give me an American equivalent? This launched right as we started recording, and at time of recording, they've raised 1.5 million in Canadian dollars. Again, that's because I'm looking at the Canadian website.
Yeah, it's 800, almost 860,000 British pounds. It's a lot
I'm
of money.
sitting at 1.12 million.
US, yeah.
Which is like in 2 hours,
Mental.
basically.
Yeah, it's mental.
Yeah, so they're the heavyweights because they have just way more traffic than itch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Regardless of like the owners, this is not a bundle that we can give you affiliate links to. This is 100% profits
Directly
go
to
to
charity. Yeah.
There is no dev split. There's nothing here. So you pay the average and you get these games. But I just want to shout out a couple highlights from the top of this. And of course, like you get keys for all these. This is not like it's exclusive to a particular platform. You get keys for the games. Just some highlights at the top. Satisfactory, Back for Blood, Metro Exodus, Spyro, Reignited Trilogy, Max Payne 3, Sunset Overdrive, Quantum Break, Fable Anniversary, This War of Mine, Slay the Spire, The Long Dark, PGA Tour 2K21. Isn't that a free-to-play game? Endless Space 2, Ring of Pain, Starbound. Like this is like the list goes on.
It's
right?
a lot
And
of games, yeah. Plus comics.
comics, tabletop stuff, 3D printable D&D things.
Yeah, game assets, like Game Maker Studio subscriptions and RPG makers in there as well, and some photo
There's
photo
PDF software.
Yeah, PDF suit is in there as well. There's a lot of stuff in there. Music
There's
maker.
Synth Drones and FX loop files,
Yeah.
which you can do what you want with, which is kind of awesome. Like,
Yep.
I don't know. This is a great bundle.
This is a heavy-hitting
And-
bundle with, like, whereas Itch was more like, indie games and indie devs coming together. There were indie games in this as well, but it's also, like, ginormous AAA titles.
There's also some titles in here that were also in the Itch bundle, like
Yeah.
just at a glance, Wonder Song was also in the Itch bundle. I want to say that Super Hot was also in the Itch bundle. Piku Niku was also in the Itch bundle. Inmost was also in the Itch bundle. But like, you get a Steam key for this, right? Like, this is better in that regard. So
Yeah, there are definitely a number of overlaps.
yes, there's definitely some
It's cool
overlap
because
here.
that means the developers just kind of threw it at both.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Thumbs
But
up
no,
in my mind.
I'm definitely going to pick up this bundle. I mean, it's going to be on sale for a little bit. I'm looking
already
for an
bought it.
end date. I don't see one.
6 days,
Okay,
I
offer
think
ends
it
in 6
says.
days.
Yep.
Offer ends in 6 days. So you've got a week. So I will pick this up.
I already picked it up. Yep.
And
I very, very nearly missed the itch.io bundle despite talking about it last week. So I just went ahead and bought this one before I even have a chance to forget.
It's just too good. Like, even if you have some of the games already, just give it to friends.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's what I'm gonna buy it and give away the ones I already own and
Yep,
or put
yep.
them into my giveaway list, and then because I want to play Spyro Reignited Trilogy.
It's pretty good. I haven't finished it.
It also has really terrible motion blur, but, just
I
saying.
still want to play it.
That's fair enough.
Motion blur didn't bother me in that one, but
Oh, that's good.
I also
yeah.
want to play Sunset Overdrive, which is a game I've never gotten around to playing.
Yeah, I've had that in my library since that came out, and I never
Sounds
played it.
about right.
It's so good though. It's a really good game. Like, I watched somebody play it, and that's why I bought it, because I watched somebody stream it, and it's just really fun. But I just haven't ever set it up.
Also, like Expeditions Viking is in here, Crying Suns is in here, Gloria Victis is in here.
Yep. There's some
All of the Amnesia games are in here.
yeah.
Dear Esther is in here. Warsaw is maybe the most fitting game you could play right now is in here.
This War
Wargroove
of
is
Mine,
in here.
I mean, you know, Kingdom,
They're
West
actually-
of Dead, Tooth and Tail. There's a lot of really good games in here.
I do have some comics too that are probably very related.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
Like, very, very related.
So
Yes.
shout outs to Humble. Raise a lot of money for a good cause, and not a fan of IGN, but shout outs to Humble. Good work.
Yeah.
So this brings us to the closing segment of the pod here, where we talk about some questions that you guys ask us on the Discord. So if you're not already, go to the website, halcyonfrequency.com, and scroll down to the bottom. There's a little link to the Discord server. Hop into the Discord server and drop us a question in the questions room. We got a couple of questions here, and I'm going to throw Jess one here to you. Can you read this question from Prismatic Flux?
Yes. If you could learn another language, why is it Japanese? I mean, what would it be? Am I meant to answer this as well?
I think so.
I mean-
I think we all are.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, after having read it. So I have been studying Japanese. I've kind of been a little lax on it recently because I started learning German instead. But I have an active Duolingo subscription and have tried 10 different languages since I started because I want to learn all the languages. But the one that I've landed on that I'm most consistent with is German, mostly because Salentre has experience with it and he wants to learn it too, so we're kind of doing it together. And it's much easier to pick up than Japanese is. And it also has the benefit of I kind of know some people who speak German, so that's helpful.
Wo könnte das sein? also, I love how I said that, and I just realized after I said it that I said it half in English, so never mind. Because I said who instead of wer. I don't even speak my own language anymore. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Womp
It's
womp.
fine.
Yeah.
Wait, so okay, wait, that's probably not a good question for that. I'm going to ask it anyway. Does Lex speak or has tried to learn German?
No. 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 Because there was not really any chance, reason, or anything like that why we would go to Germany. So it's kind of a moot point.
So my normal answer for this is kind of a moot point right now because they're currently invading countries. So I normally would say I would learn Russian because that would actually be extremely helpful to me because there's a lot of weird games that come out of Russia that if I could read the UI, it would be a lot easier to learn to play those games. But I think like my easier answer for this would probably be either French or Spanish. The reason for Spanish is I could go to like parts of the States or Mexico. And the reason for French would be Quebec. But then there's also like the wrench into the thing where like living here, it actually would be really helpful to learn Korean specifically because there's such a huge Korean population here and I go to Korean restaurants quite frequently. It would be nice to just be able to speak to half the people that are in those restaurants because a lot of them don't speak English. Instead of being like, number one, and pointing at the menu. That would be helpful. But I don't know. We live in a weird world right now where, number one, I live in a huge country on a huge continent and the vast majority of them speak English. So it's kind of tricky because like learning another language is not going to be immediately useful to me. Whereas if I lived in
Yeah.
Europe, learning another language would be extremely useful to me.
I definitely identify with that.
The thing is, if you learn a foreign language, it will, regardless of which language it is, it will always take you time to learn to communicate in it. But I would say learning a language is never useful because learning languages, first of all, it'll keep your brain active. It'll help you speak your own language better, mostly because you start thinking about grammar and that sort of stuff. And you get exposed to a different culture, which is always good. So even if you don't get fluent in a language, it's still good and never useless.
I think there's also like something to be said for like if you could tap into like the Twitch Portuguese or Spanish audience that are like quietly massive, that would be really helpful. But like those individuals who speak those languages, when they pop into my chat, usually they just speak English anyway.
Yeah.
So like I can't think of one that would be particularly helpful with work, but yeah.
But it's still always a cool idea to like just connect to people or connect
Probably
with
could.
people in like so if I could learn another language, what would it be?
Finnish.
Answer all of them.
Yeah, right. That's my answer too.
I
Learn
am,
Finnish
however,
so that you know what Bellinair's wife is saying.
the funny thing is, I literally just posted that picture yesterday. I finally set up one of my shelves next to me and put all my language learning books on it because I love learning languages. It's great. And the books I have on it here right now are Japanese, Korean, Spanish, Italian, and Irish. I'm only actively currently working on Japanese, which I've tried to pick up in the past, and as much as I like Japanese and Japan, I there's just something where it just took me forever to get like hiragana and katakana into my brain. So I'm progressing slowly. I have books. I have lots of books that I'll hopefully get back to. My brain was just like 99.9% of my brain was just taken up by this whole moving fiasco that was going on for like the last 3 months.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the mental bandwidth to focus on anything like that. But so I also use Duolingo. I think a lot of people just use it because it's free. Though I do also have the paid subscription. But I try
Me too.
I do it every day, and I am happy to report I'm now up to a 73 streak, and that is a true streak, with literally having done something every single day, not using a streak freeze. So that's pretty cool. And
I'm at 389, but I definitely have used streak freezes quite liberally.
nice.
I've never used Duolingo or any of those apps, but this isn't like learning English. This isn't learning another language, but this is helping other people learn other languages. I hate dating apps. I think that they are terrible. But as a single dude, I'm on them quite a bit. And something that I've discovered specifically through Tinder is there's a lot of people who use Tinder not as a dating app, but as a way to learn languages and other cultures and talk to people in other countries. And I've matched with a couple people in like Indonesia and like various places in Asia specifically, because they're like they use it the most that way. And they it's not a relationship thing. They just want to talk to you about like what your country's like and practice typing in English. And that kind of thing is fun. Just like explaining what it's like living in Canada to somebody who's very, very different. So not quite learning a language, but
Yeah, no, it's just cultural exchange. But like, so I've and this is like an anecdote I was going to talk about and then didn't. Where I said like even if you can't communicate in a language, it still opens up ways of communication. Is I used to be really into StarCraft, and I really got into learning Korean, like, gosh, almost like 8 years ago now, 8 years ago. Jesus Christ. And
learning Korean would let me watch StarCraft better.
I was never like 100% fluent because it's a freaking Asian language and it's complicated. But I went to Korea 8 years ago, and I was fluent enough to talk to people and order food and like read a bus plan like that was entirely in Korean and that sort of stuff. Like, you know, that was pretty cool. Like I was pretty fluent. It's all gone now, but like the
From
anecdote
watching
that...
StarCraft?
No. Like I said that because I was into StarCraft, I started learning Korean properly.
Oh, okay.
But I have books and whatnot. But because I did that and I went there and, you know, I had like a connection. Yesterday I had a person come in and follow, and they just said hello, and then they you know, because they had a Korean screen name, obviously I saw that, and then they were like just asking in chat, like, do you know Korea? And then I was like, yeah, I know Korea. I've been there. I've been to like this place and this place and this place and this place, and I don't know, like it's like it creates like bonding moments that otherwise wouldn't have happened. and that sort of stuff. So it's cool. Like, learn languages. It's fun. I promise you, it's really fun and rewarding.
It is. I said I have 10 different languages that I've tried learning on Duolingo or like done some lessons for: German, Danish, Swedish, French, Navajo, Latin, Japanese, Irish, Russian, and Korean.
Nice.
It's a very eclectic mix.
I mean, I have. If I count all the languages that I've dabbled in, so obviously I'm fluent in English and German, but I have dabbled in, and this is from like learning at home a little bit to like literally having it at school for 5 years, which was Latin, French, Finnish, Danish, Spanish, Italian, Irish, like Gaelic, which was really cool because we actually got to go to, like, this was at university, and we got to go to Ireland for free for language classes because of the EU, because they have like projects to like promote, like small languages and that sort of stuff. It was really cool. Anyways, I digress. Russian, Korean, Japanese, Hebrew, and I think that is it.
So this question comes in from Faulted Thrower, and they say, what is currently your favorite song, and who is it by?
But languages.
I don't know. We got like 2 notes about how long this podcast has been recording in our private chat here. So
it's very short. No, it's fine. I can very quickly answer that. I don't have a favorite song right now. I don't really do that. I have favorite playlists that I go through, and they're very eclectic. They're currently full of like EDM, K-pop, shanties, and yeah, that's about it. It's very eclectic. It's like a really weird mix of things, and it kind of depends on my mood, what I'm into.
Jess, do you have an answer for this one?
Yeah, so I think I've mentioned this before. I don't like answering questions about favorites, but okay, the answer is I don't have a favorite, but I do have 2 songs that are, I guess, like, in my mind, I want to shout them out. So I've mentioned previously, I could tell you the artists that I really like, and I've mentioned it many times, Dance Gavin Dance. I have been listening to the instrumental versions of their music. They release everything sans vocals, and I really love the instrumental version of Suspended in This Disaster. Another song that I super like, I just said that, super like, yep, is a song called Knees Up, and I'm not 100% certain how to pronounce the band. I want to say Breabach. It's Gaelic. So, not certain, but it's a song in Gaelic, and they're a contemporary folk, like a Scottish folk group, contemporary folk. And I love that song. And Suspended in This Disaster, just, to me, the instrumental version is just, so good. It's amazing.
The hard part about this question isn't the first part of it for me, it's the second part and the third part. Because this question continues on, which is also in what is your least favorite song by the same artist, followed up by, or if that is not interesting enough for you, what is something you love to hate, and a second thing that you hate to love? So if I were to answer what my favorite song is right now, I don't have a song by them that I hate. There's albums that I listen to less, but if I were to call out my favorite band/song, it would be the band Hum, which is just HUM. And my favorite song by them is off of their most recent album called Inlet, and the song is called In the Den. That's probably been my most listened to song since it came out. Like, I own the record, the physical version for it, and I listen to it maybe 3 times a week, maybe more. 3 to 5 times a week, and I also have a tendency to listening to the entire album on Spotify while I'm out on walks pretty frequently. So I listen to the physical record maybe 3 times a week, and on Spotify countlessly more than that. Like, it's not even describable. I don't really have anything by them that I don't like. So I have kind of a cheaty answer for part 2/part 3 of this question. I have a song that's been stuck in my head.
I didn't even answer part 2.
I have a song. That's fine. I have a song that's been stuck in my head for the past 6 weeks, which has nothing to do with the fact that a big video just came out about this song recently, which reminded me about a whole bunch of stuff that I remember researching in my early days on the internet. But the song is "Call on Me" by Eric Preds, which it's maybe one of the biggest earworms of ever. Which was originally a dance mix used by the members of Daft Punk that was then stolen by one artist and stolen by another artist and then published under Eric Perez's name by his record label without his permission. So it's technically a stolen song that he performed live once that his record label published without his permission. And then to respond, what's my least favorite song by the same artist? Everything else Eric Perez has ever written, because I don't like any of it. And what is something that you love to hate is that song, "Call on Me" by Eric Perez. And also, I might be falling down a rabbit hole of buying all of the bootleg stolen versions of that song that different artists have published over the years. There's only about 8 of them, but they're all really cheap records, and I kind of like all of them because it's such an earworm. Do either of you know what song I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I had to
I
look it
don't.
up, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, that song. Yes.
Da-da-dee, da-dee, da-da-dee.
Yes.
Which
That
is actually a
that
sampled version of a song called Valerie, where he says "call on me," but it's instead of "call on me," it's "call on." It's the short one first and the long one second, so it's actually backwards. And whatever, it's stupid earworm. But
I can answer actually a little bit the second question.
Wait, this
The second part of the music question.
yeah, I can do that too.
I listen to a decent amount of K-pop, not like super obsessively or anything like that. I don't have any favorite bands or something like that. I'm mostly like, oh, this is a cool song. I like it, and then it goes on a playlist. I don't really follow like bands or artists or whatever, but generally speaking, I always will very much dislike their slow songs for some reason. I enjoy the fast songs, like the upbeat, poppy, EDM, whatever, like the dance songs, yes, but then the slow songs, it's there is not a single slow K-pop song that I like. So that if that's just sort of a slightly more committed answer to that question, I guess.
yeah. I feel like part 1 is the most important part of this question. The rest are just kind of bonuses.
Yeah.
But I feel kind of like I'm cheating by throwing "Call on Me" in there, but you know.
I definitely skipped part 2. And if I had to pick a song I don't like by this band, again, Dance Gavin Dance, I don't know that I have so much a song, but I have... they've been making music for many years, and so they've actually transitioned a lot of band members. And so the older albums, I'm not a big fan of because I didn't enjoy their original vocalist. His name is... Johnny Craig, and he was replaced by a vocalist named Tillian Pearson. And Tillian, to me, just has like such a beautiful voice. I love listening to it. And combined with the fact that I think their musical composition is just so interesting as it is, combined with his voice, it's just like, oh, so good. And so I've gone back and listened to older albums, and I just skip. Nope, dislike. But I love their new music.
Awesome. Well, I think this is going to be our longest episode ever after I edit the other bit in. So I think what I should do now is just say, thank everybody for showing up for this episode. Thanks to the two of
thanks
you
for having me. That was
recording.
really fun. I really enjoyed that discussion.
Are you sure you don't want to keep talking about languages?
I mean,
Or Hogwarts and Harry Potter.
if you want us to start a languages podcast where we learn languages and talk about it, tell us about that on the Halcyon Frequency Discord in the podcast topics section. We won't do
down.
that, but like, I mean, I'll
if enough people talk about it, maybe.
Maybe we could have a languages episode.
realistically, I just want to do a Dune podcast where we just read the books and talk about them chapter by chapter. But like, nobody wants to do that with me, so sad. Anyway, this has been the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you want to get more episodes of this podcast, you can find that at halcyonfrequency.com. The VODs are available on YouTube if you want to watch it in video format. If you want to listen to it in audio format, it's available anywhere where podcasts are found. If it's not available where you happen to listen to podcasts, shoot me a DM on Discord or just at me on Discord or at me on Twitter, and we'll make it appear there, or I'll do my best to make it appear there. And yeah, if you really like this podcast and you want to give us 5 stars for a 5-star runtime, and you want to jump through a lot of hoops, you can give us a rating on iTunes or any other podcast platform like Overcast or Podcast Addict that has a rating system and reviews system, or like give us a follow on what do you call it? Spotify, which also helps. And if you would like to find us all, you can find us all through the website. And Jess, you want to tell us a little bit about you and where people can find you?
Yeah, I'm Jess. Whoa, Jess. Whoa_Jess on Twitch, without the underscore everywhere else. You can find me Mondays through almost sub Friday, but Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. I play a lot of strategy simulation management, indie games, or maybe just CK3.
Well, maybe
Hard
maybe
to
not.
tell these days. Anyway.
Someone's got to play CK3 so that other people don't have to. FG, where can people find you?
Yeah, hi, I'm FGsquared. You can find me everywhere. YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Patreon, under that name. I'm also on Twitter, but there is a sneaky underscore between the FG and the squared. And I play a wide variety of games, a lot of indie games, Mondays through Fridays. And next week, we're gonna dive back into Rogue Heroes, because they have no DLC coming out. And then also, not so indie, Rune Factory 5.
Ooh. It's still niche, though.
Yeah, but...
Rune Factory's pretty...
Rune
Is it fair to
Factory-
call Rune Factory niche? Is Rune Factory a niche game?
Oh, it's
Maybe
yeah,
that's the title for
yeah.
this podcast. Is Rune Factory a niche game?
I hadn't heard of it until today, so maybe. That doesn't mean much coming from me, honestly.
Well, let us know in the
Is Rune Factory niche, chat?
Discord. Yeah, let us know.
Go tell us. I said chat. Anyway, I should probably just say my schedule real quick, because I've gone through a major shift. I'm no longer streaming on weekends. I now only stream 3 days a week. But instead of streaming like normal human amounts of time, I'm going to stream inhuman amounts of time, because I do have that capability, assuming I'm rested. So I am going to be streaming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays going forward. Those are the only days of the week I'm going to stream. But on those days, I'm going to be streaming approximately 12 to 15 hours a day. So it's going to be a marathon once a week, but I used to do stuff similar to this, and the happiest I've ever been in my entire life was when I worked 4 days a week with 10-hour shifts and a 4-hour commute, which is approximately 14-hour days. So I'm trying to emulate the best working schedule I ever had, which was probably the best mental health I've ever had in my life, because I've been really down the past couple of weeks, and it's been pretty tough, and it's been showing. So this is going to be 3 days of streaming, 1 YouTube and podcast every day, and then going forward from there on, I will have days off, or I can do bonus streams if I would like to at that point. So that's going to kind of be my schedule going forward. So I won't be live as often, but probably close to the same number of hours in the long run. So YouTube channel won't change at all. But if you want to find me, you can find me at twitch.tv/BlindiRL or stupidskull.com. You can also find me on YouTube, and I've been tweeting more recently, which is out of character for me. But yeah, so at BlindiRL on Twitter. And with all that, I think it's time for us to take us out of this podcast. So thank you very much for listening. We upload on Sundays. You'll hear us again next week. And now is where we all
Thank
echo
you,
and say
everybody.
goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
No.
Kaput.